Good evening, my darlings. It's Wednesday, the 6th of March. That's the one we're doing tonight. Absolute classic and one of my ultimate favourites. Shall we begin? Let's do. It was first published on October the 1st, 1981. And it has 454 pages, hardcover. The version I have here is from 1991, paperback, 354 pages. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Thomas Harris. Thomas Harris started his career covering crime in the USA and Mexico, was a reporter and editor for the Associated Press in New York. His first novel, Black Sunday, was printed in 1975, followed by Red Dragon in 1981. That was closely followed by The Silence of the Lambs in 1988. And then we had to wait until 1999 for Hannibal. And then we had to wait until 2006 for Hannibal Rising. They are all beautiful books and fit seamlessly together, as they should do, otherwise it wouldn't work now, would it? Anyway, shall we do the plot? This is my favourite part. I'll try not to do too many spoilers. There is a psychopath at large, a monster, in the grip of some unimaginable delusion, compounded of sexual hunger, demonic violence, and sinister logic. A boastful killer who sends the police teasing notes signed the Red Dragon. So they call in Special Agent Will Graham, the one man with the gift to get into the monster's mind, the one man who can imagine what the madman feels and can anticipate his next act. He's a real people reader. It's not easy being a people reader, and getting into the mind of a killer is probably the hardest thing in the world. Absolutely. Red Dragon is probably the most suspenseful, terrifying, and utterly compelling thriller ever written. A second family has been massacred. Not murdered, they were massacred. Awful. By the terrifying serial killer the press has christened the Tooth Fairy. Special Agent Jack Crawford turns to the one man who can help restart a failed investigation, Will Graham. Now, Graham is the greatest profiler the FBI has ever had. But herein lies the problem. The physical and mental scars of capturing Hannibal Lecter have caused Graham to go into early retirement. Now Graham must turn to Lecter for help. Imagine that, having to turn to the bloke that you banged up for advice. Let's hope he never offers to work for Elliot. Sorry. When it comes to Hannibal Lecter, I would say he's in the top 10 of culture villains. He's so hip that Brian Cox of the TV show Succession played him in the Michael Mann's adaptation of Red Dragon called Manhunter. If you've not seen that film, do yourself a favour. Get a cold, ice cold beer, and some really nice chocolate. Darker the chocolate the better. And sit there nibbling seductively on your chocolate and drinking your cold beer while enjoying a kick-ass film called Manhunter, and it is absolutely fantastic, utterly fantastic. You will absolutely love it, I promise you, and the fairy don't lie. After Thomas Harris and Hollywood ran the character of Lecter into the ground after the second film, they did a little bit. I've had years of sighing and saying nothing's been the same since Anthony Hopkins gave his Oscar-worthy "I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti." Ooh, yes, I think this is a line in a film that's going to send my chills down my spine. It will be the fava beans. Ooh, yes, the fava beans. They do it for me every time. You really feel it for the character, Will Graham. He's happily retired. He's living in Florida. He's doing his thing. He's living his best life. Leave him alone. For God's sakes, don't disturb him. He's been through enough. No, nobody's that lucky. Sadly. Moving on. His old boss, Jack Crawford, comes calling and asks for his help. The new killer, dubbed the Tooth Fairy by the cops due to his habit of biting his victims. He has already killed 2 families after breaking into their homes and seems to be on a schedule to do it again at the next full moon. Honestly, if you're on the Dragon's radar, don't worry about paying your milk bill. You won't be able to live long enough to do it. Really. Your monthly milk bill, you'll be dead within it. You won't have a chance to pay it. Will is reluctant to come back, not just because he has already been gutted once by the madman Lecter. When you say gutted, spare a thought for this guy. He also fears that trying to think like a mass murderer isn't the best thing for his mental health. I can see why. It turns out his concerns are quite justified after a tabloid journalist essentially paints a target on his back. Well done, journalist. Don't worry, you'll get yours. So he's painted this target on his back for the Tooth Fairy to find him. Even worse, Will has to confront the man who nearly killed him. Lecter. Hannibal the Cannibal. Goes by many names. Yes, he's going to talk to the man who nearly killed him. And after being confined to a cell, it doesn't mean that Dr. Lecter can't still inflict serious damage. He might not be able to get to your body, but sure as shit can get to your mind. Poor Will. He's having the day from hell. Never think about complaining about having a bad day. Put yourself in Will's shoes and then tell me you're having a bad day. The presence of Lecter hangs over Will like the smell of rotten meat, always there in the background, mocking, laughing, goading will. You know that saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Well, in this case, keep your enemy behind bars too. The red dragon, madman, tooth fairy is also known as Francis Dollarhide. He might not have Lecter's culinary skills, but he is so unhinged and damn scary, very scary, that he makes for a tragic villain. He makes Will Graham a damaged but compelling hero in this story. By studying serial killers and putting himself in the mindset of the killer, Will starts to unravel and starts to question if he might not be like them. This leads to quite the toxic combination, which Will finds very unnerving. But to be fair, having studied people like I have studied people, I can see how he would feel very unnerved, especially undertaking that of a serial killer, the mindset. I know there's a saying called know thy enemy, but blimey, you've got to have a day off. You know, tea and crumpets, no more killing. You know, just for 24 hours. Yeah. By understanding madness, Will can find logic, and it's following that internal logic that allows Will to find the evidence they need to catch the dragon. The breakthrough Will eventually makes is by a pure detection in the genre. It is in front of the reader the entire time, but it is so elegantly done and it fits together so perfectly that Thomas Harris doesn't have to obscure it with red herrings. This novel has often been imitated, but never equalled. No, excuse me. Yeah, I made plenty of notes for you, my darlings. Of all the scenes of death, and there is plenty in this novel, my favourite has got to be the death of the journalist, Freddie Lowndes. After being tortured and filmed being tortured by the Red Dragon, he is eventually murdered by the dragon. Yeah, that makes a big swallow. His death is one of such cruelty that it beggars belief the censors allowed it to go into the novel uncensored. Truly magnificent, truly terrifying. The ending of the novel shows no mercy. It lays bare the evil in men's souls and shows very hauntingly how, if we are not careful, we will become the very thing we hunt. I'd say 10 out of 10 for this novel. It will change the way you see serial killers and will teach you a thing or two about the human mind. I absolutely loved this novel, and it perfectly lays the foundations for Harris's next masterpiece, The Silence of the Lambs. Now, my first day ever my first date with a boy ever was to the movie Silence of the Lambs. I desperately wanted to see the film, and I guess it set me off on a lifelong love of Thomas Harris. I love the way the man writes. I love the way that he understands crime and the power of the human mind. He certainly understands evil, and he has created a vile killer, a classy vile killer, but a killer nonetheless. And I would recommend this, very much so. I think if you've not ever read anything by Thomas Harris, this is start here. It will set you up for the rest of the novels, and they are brilliantly written and they're a lot of fun. Honestly, I would definitely recommend it. 10 out of 10 for a study of a serial killer. Yeah, it's beautiful, scary, beautifully scary, fantastic read. It will keep you up at night, maybe because you won't be able to sleep worrying about if this guy comes into the house. Let's hope this is just a figment of somebody's imagination and not actually someone that is real. So, my darlings, I will say what I always do. Happy readings and enjoy. And if you enjoyed what I did, give me a thumbs up. And if you really enjoyed what I did, you can always give me a subscribe. And I will say good night, my darlings. Sleep well. Don't be too scared to read this. Bye bye, my darlings.